about what we read last night or over the weekend, okay, and that is the social contract theory of Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau. We'll see how far we get today. Just depends on you guys, and I guess me as well, okay. Actually, what you're going to write about on the test is you're going to have to compare and contrast Hobbes and Locke, okay. Those are two that we borrow from the most, and I think are closest or important for us to understand the differences between these two. Now, those of you that did the Locke questions, is it pretty easy to try and answer those questions, or was it a little bit of a grind? Not too bad? Okay. Yeah, it's definitely Old English, but there's some quality stuff in there. Okay, so Thomas Hobbes, all right, so he is from England, okay, so we know that he's living under the divine right of kings or queens, depending on when, who was serving at that time as king, okay. Obviously, King Charles, in the biography, they mentioned King Charles I there, okay, and the English, the struggle there with the Parliament. Okay, so the Glorious Revolution, something we'll be talking about a little bit later. Okay, so Hobbes is English, and he is writing 1630s, 1640s. He's writing his political philosophy. Okay. During an absolute monarchy. Okay, so Hobbes. Drawing shapes. Okay. That's really freaking cool how that worked out. Okay. All right, top of your head, like, what do you got on Thomas Hobbes? Any, like, general feeling about this guy? He got a optimistic view of mankind? No? Pessimistic view of mankind? Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of faith in human beings, does he? Okay, so his most famous work is a book called The Leviathan. Okay, now, prior to reading this last night, have you heard this word before? Leviathan. Where might you find that word? Leviathan. It's in the, I think it's in Leviticus. It might be in Revelation as well. What is the Leviathan? It's in the Bible. Huh?
Does it have to do with like rules?
Well, they might. No.
I was just thinking like Leviticus.
Right. It's an evil sea monster. It's an all-encompassing monster. Okay? All right, the Leviathan. So, some people look at government and they see this all-encompassing, powerful creature, Leviathan, that controls everything. Okay? And it can harm people and kill them and hurt them and take away their freedom. Okay? This Leviathan. There's a book. Remember, you guys are going to have to read something for this class. Okay? Mark Levin, who is a talk show radio host, commentator, political commentator, Mark Levin wrote a book called The Leviathan, like Hobbes wrote. Okay? All right. So Leviathan, he said, humans were essentially very complicated organic machines responding mechanically to stimuli of the world in accordance with universal laws of nature. We're machines. We're mechanical. Oh, that's interesting. Now, this stuff. You get a lot of that in your reading yesterday. Yeah? A lot talking about the state of nature or the laws of nature or nature's laws. Okay, all three of them talk about that. Okay? What are they talking about? What is the state of nature? So if you were the government, like a king?
Or like,
Or you elect the government yourself?
no, you like are your own.
You're your own
state
government.
of-
Oh, okay, okay. So there is no government. So in a state of nature, there's no law except natural law. Anybody agree with that? Disagree with that? Another way of putting it, the state of nature, another way of thinking about it that can help you understand it or help others understand it. The state of nature, okay, so there's no government. I like to think about this, guys, as like the jungle, right? You're in a jungle and there's a pecking order, yes? What is the chief aim for things that exist in the jungle? Is to survive. Okay, so we are getting down to the brass tacks right here, guys. Survival. Okay, how do you survive? Well, you try and avoid the predators. Okay, and if you are the predators, well, you prey on others. Okay, so in a state of the jungle, that's why I like to think about it. I think state of nature is there's no law, you're living in a jungle. Okay, now throw human beings into the jungle, and it's still about survival. So you obviously have the tiger, the Siberian tiger, right? The tiger is the king of the jungle. Okay, and then from there, humans are going to fit in there, and then we're going to be the king of the jungle. But what about other humans? Is everybody going to live in harmony? It's still about survival. Okay, so who's going to eat? Who's going to gather the food? Is there going to be enough food? Okay, so the state of nature is without law. Okay, it's natural. So how we view the state of nature also depends on whether you believe in God or not. Believe in God, the state of nature looks differently than if you don't believe in God. Okay, so let's dig into Hobbes a little bit more. Okay, so I'm in section 2 here, theory of human nature. Okay, after I read that, he says, from this, he talking about humans, 3 basic premises in human nature. Humans are subjective, self-interested, and rational. Okay? So what does that mean? The state of nature, humans are subjective. There's no objective truth. What is truth? Whatever you think it is. So in order to survive, if I've got to kill another human being, that's okay. If I think it's okay. Okay, now the person you're killing might not think it's okay, but too bad. This is my truth. Yes? So if I want to steal from you, I can do that as well. If that's my truth. Okay? Do we have people in this country today that think it's okay to steal from other people? Yeah, it happens all the time. Or steal from Walgreens. Okay? So, subjective, selfish, and rational. Now they put an E on there. Rational. This is going to be important. Okay, we understand survival. We're rational human beings. And we're self-interested. We're selfish. We worry about ourselves. We worry about others. We worry about ourselves. Okay? So, is Hobbes right? He said life in a state of nature would be nasty, brutish, and short. That's probably his most famous quote. Okay. Life in a state of nature would be nasty, brutish, and short. Yeah, you'd live in a constant state of war. Okay? Now, in some parts of this country, south side of Chicago, East LA, East St. Louis, some people grow up and feel this. Okay? Now, I went to a friend's house yesterday. His son bought a house on North Tyler Road. And, you know, can't get on K96 on North Tyler Road. Okay, I'm like, dude, this is a really safe neighborhood. Okay, like this really good place to have kids. It's a safe place. Okay. A lot of people don't have that. Okay. So what do you think? Is Hobbes right? Is this how we are as human beings? Okay. No. Without God, or belief in God, can we get closer to this? The further we are away from God, the closer we are to this. Okay? So, he's got some interesting points to make here, guys, about human nature that we should pay attention to. Okay? So today, what do we call subjectivism today? Like, there's another term for it. You learned this in religion class, I'm sure. When you make up your own truth, your own morality. Moral relativism. Okay? Pretty much the same thing. Moral relativism. Nice job. Okay? All right. Continue. Subjectivism is a doctrine that knowledge and values are dependent on and limited by your subjective experience. He said that good and evil have no objective meaning, rather just describe what humans are naturally drawn to or repelled by. In addition, he argued that since we were mechanical, humans were exclusively self-interested. Okay? I think, you know, all of us are selfish to some degree. I think you'd be lying to yourself if you're not. You don't think that, okay? Everyone pursues only what they believe in their self-interest or what benefit them most. Even seemingly altruistic acts are truly selfish. Do you guys like this one? Where adults care for children because they have a strong sense of obligation to preserve the race and are benefited by the ability to work and desire to have someone to take care of them when they are old. So this is why we have kids. So we can use them as free labor, and then we have somebody take care of us when we're old. That's why your parents had you. Okay, stop. Wait a second. Let's go back. We're in 2024. Let's go back 100 years in this country. In 1924, you're living in Hays, Kansas, and you own a farm. Okay? What are you going to have? What are you going to try and have? Lots of kids, yes? To work on the farm, to milk the cows, to feed the chickens and the pigs, yes? To bale the hay. Big strapping lads, okay? And you hope that some of them will stay and take over the farm when you die and let you stay in the house until you die. So Hobbes is writing this 300 years ago. He's got a point. Now, in 2024, I just raised 2 kids, okay? 20 and 24. Okay. And, you know, I did not get a lot of free labor out of it. And I have no idea whether they're going to be taking interested in taking care of mom and dad. When we can't take care of ourselves. Okay. Now I've been through that as a child. Okay, so my mom she had a major heart attack when she was 53 and died. My dad got sick, but he had a wife, his new wife, and she was a nurse, and she took care of him. We tried to help. Both kids were out of state, so Okay, just kind of interesting this worldview here. Okay, but he says humans are also rational beings. They do not evaluate the ends because they are subjective, but they search out the best way to achieve their needs and desires, which for a lot of people is just survival. Their needs and desire to survive. Okay, so as rational beings, we want to survive. So we're willing to look for a social contract that can help us survive. Okay? And what type of social contract does Hobbes advocate for to achieve this rational goal? An absolute monarch. Okay, so an absolute ruler. So, he doesn't necessarily advocate for the divine right, but he doesn't really challenge the divine right. Okay, so he can say absolute monarch, okay, but he's not saying that comes from God. So he's got to be kind of careful about how he writes this and phrases this, because he's writing this at a time of divine right kings. Okay? Guys, these theories, these philosophies will help lead to the establishment of parliament, okay, representative government. Okay, if you take away the divine right, you can still have a king, a ruler, an absolute ruler, okay? That doesn't necessarily have to their power come from God, okay? So he goes on, since everyone is self-interested, or life would be nasty versus short, everyone competed against each other for survival. At the same time, everyone is rational, therefore understands that civil society would better help them achieve their self-motivated ends. Therefore, they enter into agreement with each other to form a government where they give up some of their rights, probably more of their rights, because this is an absolute ruler, and allow someone to govern them and control them, which is better than the alternative, which is a constant state of war. Since people self-interested tends to overwhelm their reason, Hobbes argued that only an absolute authority could expect to control them. Okay. So that's pretty interesting. And I think that, look at the nations where we have absolute rulers today. Okay, so you could look at North Korea. Okay, that is probably the best example. Okay, another country you could look at is Myanmar, which formerly known as Burma. Okay, that are two of the most oppressive governments, absolute governments on the planet today. Is it that the North Korean people are just inherently subjective, selfish, more than South Koreans? Now, surviving in North Korea is a lot harder than it is surviving in South Korea. Just simple, like food is a problem. Could North Korea survive without an absolute ruler? Could North Korean people thrive without an absolute ruler? Probably. Right? What about the Iraqis? When we freed Iraq of Saddam Hussein and we got rid of this military dictator, do they know how to govern themselves? Can they survive without somebody telling them what to do all the time and controlling them from their bad behavior? Well, kind of. They're finding out. They're trying to figure it out. It's not easy. Okay, so Hobbes is pretty self-explanatory. Should I take a picture of that? Yeah, we'll take a picture of that. I think I pressed that. Okay. All right. Save the picture. Beautiful. All right, clearing. All right. John Locke with an E. Now, he's writing a little bit later, yes? If you look at his dates, he lived from 1632 to 1704. Okay? If you look at the quote from the top, under Locke, his photograph there, the law of nature given to us by God commands that we do no harm to others in regard to their life, health, liberty, or possessions. We all have the right to life, liberty, and property. Okay, which is probably the most famous quote from Locke. Now, those of you guys that did the assignment, answered the 5 questions, obviously goes a lot deeper than that. Okay, so born in England, 1932, goes on to pen essay concerning human understanding, which discussed the existence of God and possibly the moral principles of rationally moral principles being rationally demonstrated. Okay. Locke also argued in his book that all knowledge was founded and ultimately derived from the senses. He also wrote 2 treatises on government, which outlined liberal ideas about government. His second treatise on civil government was originally written in 1680, but was considered too radical to be published until 1690. He died in 1704. Okay. So the Glorious Revolution, guys, is 1688. This is where they basically bring down the absolute monarchy. Okay? And Locke played a big role in that. What you guys read, if you did the homework, the second treatise on civil government, okay, helped bring down the absolute monarchy. Okay? All right, so something in here I want to talk about here. Oh, liberal ideas. All right, let's get this straight. We just did the political spectrum, right? And I had on opposite sides liberal and conservative. Okay? Guys, that's not what we're talking about here. This is classic liberalism. All the founding fathers of this country were what you would refer to as classic liberals. Okay? What's the root of the word liberalism? Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm saying that the wrong way. Liberty? What is liberty? Or where is liberalism? I should have said it like this. Where is liberalism derived from the word liberty? That was better said. Yes? Okay. I went to public schools. Okay. Liberty is what? Freedom. Okay, it's another word for freedom. All right, so classic liberals believed in freedom. Okay, and Locke can have a huge impact in that direction. Okay, so let's skip down to theory on human nature for Locke. Like Hobbes, Locke believed social contract theory, but it was different because he had a different view of human nature and natural law. Okay, we've already heard that. That people are not subjective creatures, as Hobbes argued, but rather there is objective truth, there is good and evil, there is good, right and wrong. Okay, I know you guys have had religion classes, 3 years plus now of them. Is this something that you've studied? Objective truth. Okay, where do we get our objective truth? Existence of God. So, what about where does that come from? Who established this? Now, we're all human. And sometimes we make up our own truth, yes, to justify our behavior, yes. It's okay. I mean, cussing isn't that bad, right? Or are we told to watch our tongue? I've been working my way through Proverbs. Okay? You guys ever study Proverbs? It's all about wisdom. Okay, being a wise human being. Okay? Now, it's going to make you look in the mirror is what it's going to do if you read Proverbs. Now, you guys have the Bible app? Huh? You got the Bible? You don't have the Bible app on your phone, Benny?
Don't have the Bible.
Okay, well, download the Bible app. Because you're on your phone more than you're in your Bible. Right? So, if you have the Bible on your phone, you can get to the Bible app. Really easy. Okay? Somebody said, what are you doing on your phone? Well, reading the Bible. It's in my yeah, I just put it right there. Because I try to go there every day. Okay? And they have little, what do you call them? Well, no, you can go through a series of little discipleship things you can do. Okay? Like, what do they call them? Yeah.
Discipleship.
Yeah, like they have these little plans you can do, right? Right, so I'm doing Proverbs right now. Okay, yeah, little discipleships. I'm saying that wrong?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
Like somebody, you ever get one of these for Christmas or something? Somebody gives you a little thing like you can go through and learn. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
My wife's better at this than I am, but okay. I have 5 completed. Okay. I've been working on this. Okay, so Proverbs talks a lot about right and wrong, right and wrong, right and wrong. Okay, and it makes you look in the mirror. Okay? So if you want to be a wise human being, okay, you got to study the truth. Okay, and that's what. So obviously, Locke believes in God. Okay, or the existence of God. Okay. Now, continuing here. Therefore, morality stems from natural law, which is inherent in all people and prevents them from harming others. Okay. It's inherent. Okay, there's that little voice in your head. You're about to do something wrong. It says, maybe I shouldn't do this. You ever have that little voice in your head? What's that called? So if I was studying the brain, could I point to like a physical part of the brain that is the conscious? Where does that come from? Your soul? Can you point that out to me on a Where does that come from? Where does the soul and the conscious come from? Oh. Good. All right. There's a trend here. All right. Now, so that's inherent. Like, we're born with that. Yes? Our dog's born with that. Dogs are pretty smart, right? Cats are pretty smart. My cat, Moose, is pretty smart. Like, when I change my tone of voice, he knows it's time to go inside. Okay? Moose! Okay? Get in the house. Let's have a cat named Moose. So, do the cats know and the dogs know when they're doing something wrong?
I mean, sometimes.
So, is that a conscience?
No.
That's a learned behavior?
Yeah.
Oh, so you're talking that's nature. Wait, nurture versus nature. You guys ever study this? Nature versus nurture? Watching the clock. Nature versus, you guys do this like psychology class or something? Huh?
Child development.
Okay. I think this is really interesting. You think it's interesting?
I think.
So you have a mom and a dad? So do you, I mean, obviously you're gonna look like more one or, yeah, one more than the other. Like my son, has more of his mother's traits than I do. Than he has in mine. My daughter has neither. But I do things that my dad did. You know what I mean? And I'm a carbon copy of my dad. Okay. So the things I do, the habits I have, is that nature, like DNA? Or is it I learned that from him? Guys, I think there's more to this DNA stuff than we think. You know what I mean? I think a lot of that is inherent. Huh?
I'm team nature.
I'm team nature, for sure.
We had to read the book. I don't know if you guys read biology, but it was like so many things that we feel are like basic. Like,
And your health too, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's such a big thing. Yeah, the more I learn about it, the more I think it's just, there's a lot. Obviously, some of us learn, a lot of it's learned as well, but I think a lot's innate. Okay, continue. Sorry, I got off track there a little bit. Okay, so I'm at this fourth line down. So Locke argued that the state of nature was the perfect liberty to do what is best, but not whatever you wanted. Because we have a conscience, we know right from wrong. In the state of nature, although a state where there is no government to punish people, it is not a state without morality. The state of nature is pre-political, not pre-moral. What does this mean? So, right.
Sorry.
Right. Yes.
But it's not like it's not an anarchy. It's more of just like this is what's right, so I'm gonna do what's right instead of like.
So morality exists in a state of nature. We don't have, one of the questions on the law questions was difference between civil society and a political society, right? So political society could be you're your own king, okay? Whereas civil society is where we agree as people to live under a set of rules, okay? So this morality is there before we are. Before we're on this planet, on this globe, morality existed. That's what Locke is saying, which I think is important. Unfortunately, since there's no government, people still might steal or otherwise harm others enough to start a war between the two or their families. Okay, so this existence of God doesn't make us perfect. So when we're born, you and I are born. We're born inherently good or inherently evil. Good, but with the stain of sin. Yes? So, I think again, this is what Locke sees. He is biblical here. Okay? We will sin. Most notably, Locke is concerned that with people stealing or fighting over private property, which he defined as being created whenever someone mixed their labor with the natural resources of the earth, i.e. farming. Okay, so if you sweat, toil, bleed, work on a piece of land, with that piece of land, in harmony with that piece of land, you have the right to possess that property and own it. Okay? Now, there's that little blurb at the end about Native Americans, okay, which you may or may not agree with. Going with the latter, for most of you probably don't agree with that. As a side note, Locke concluded that it was okay for Europeans to take land from Native Americans because they did not utilize the raw materials of the land and therefore it was not their property. Okay, it doesn't really matter, guys, because throughout human history, as we talked about yesterday, the force theory is a thing. And it's happened throughout history where one group of people are going to take over another group of people, either displace them or envelop them into them, as the Romans tried to do. Okay, it doesn't matter whether that's true or not. Although, if you want to look at this idea of private property, which is essential in our system, okay, I've talked about the American dream in here. Maybe that was history. Talk about the American dream. What is the American dream for most people? It's different for everybody. Okay. What is your American dream? I have, guys, to this point, I'm here to report, I achieved my American dream. Okay. I own my own home. I do not have to worry about where my next meal is coming from. I have the career that I like. I've been able to raise children and worship my God as I please. I still have freedom to defend myself and say the things I want to say. I have achieved the American dream. Okay. Now I could get a wrench thrown into that at any time. Something really bad could happen. But I will be able to pursue that happiness once again, no matter what happens, unless I'm locked up. Okay. All right. So, which we'll talk about that later. Okay. So, this contract theory. So he says, social contract. Government is then formed when individuals agree to leave a state of nature and give up their power to a public government that can stop these attacks against the laws of nature. Having joined this social contract with other members of society, they gain laws to protect themselves and their property, as well as the power to enforce them. Therefore, if the government ceases to protect the liberties of the people and their property, i.e. tyranny of oppression, say from the King of England, then the people have every right, if not an outright obligation, to overthrow that government and create a new social contract that will protect them. All right. Do me a favor real quick. Turn to page 30. What time do we get out?
35.
Don't say that. Don't say 35. All right, real quick. Second paragraph. Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be... No! self-evident that all men are created equal, that they're endowed with the great certain unalienable rights. And among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What did Hobbes say?
Most students wear blue jeans, but you would be allowed to wear red jeans or white jeans or red, white, and blue jeans if you have them. Some people have like Uncle Sam overalls. Things like that would be permissible. We are not wearing
This guy.
sweats
And stop spreading my email.
on Wednesday.
I went down for coffee.
If you want to celebrate by wearing a red or white or blue hat, that's fine. But as etiquette and politeness, we don't wear hats in the building. So if you can wear a hat, but don't wear it in the building.
Okay. I was going to be able to make that final point. All right, we'll wrap up tomorrow.